What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming back at you with some more grades for the defensive side of the ball and special teams this week as the 2023 season has wrapped up. But also some news from 1265 Lombardi Avenue this afternoon as the Packers introduced their new defensive coordinator, and now I'm just gonna blank on his first name. I'm pretty sure it's Jeff. It is
Jeff, you're
Jeff
correct.
Hafley. I don't know why I had to second guess myself, but they introduced Jeff Hafley to the media today and to fans, and then Matt LaFleur spoke as well. So we'll hop into that in a second. But as the man with the sultry, lovely voice had just spoke, is my lovely co-host Jordan Chesky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Hello, I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
That's good. That's good. Um, I'd say a lot of Packers Nation is doing well too, because as I said, Jeff Hafley was introduced today, and what an electric press conference! I know that you said you didn't get a chance to watch it, but I watched it, and it was pretty much the quintessential college coach press conference. Like he was fired up to be talking to the media, to be really introducing himself, talking about what kind of defense he's going to run, and just really get into the weeds with some of the things he's going to be doing. You had mentioned when we were talking about it that it looked like it ran long because it was like a half hour, like there was a half hour press conference. Usually they're only about 10-15 minutes. And so yeah, Jeff had a lot of things to say, and the idea and I guess the feel I got from most of the Packers on the Twitter sphere and in our Discord, brief interruption, join the Discord, gspn.info, so you can stay up with the latest and greatest and all things Packers, Bucks, Brewers, and everything else Wisconsin. Um, but is this that he said all the right things? He led off his press conference talking about how he grew up loving football, and the reason why he left BC, Boston College, is because he loved watching football growing up, and Green Bay is the mecca of football. And like, why wouldn't you want to come work for this historic franchise? And so he he hit the nail on the head as to like what you really want to appease fans with. It's a pretty good start
No half measures.
for starting already.
hmm Yeah, no, I did not watch the video of his press conference. I certainly will because I am very intrigued by what he has to say and just kind of the tenor of what how he's very excited to be here. It's a new opportunity, obviously. But I did read a fair bit of commentary and just kind of the key takeaways of whether it's scheme or whatever. And I think it just feels very energized. I think that is kind of where, like I don't think this is new because it's been 3 weeks probably since he was,
Ish,
you
yeah,
know,
2-3 weeks.
officially hired. But seeing new energy in the building certainly kind of it bubbles up, this goodwill that is being generated from this new era, you know, and to see kind of a new perspective and different things being addressed and stuff like that. I think that is honestly like, you know, the most exciting thing about this. It may still well like we have a lot of months ahead of us, before the start of next season, but we may still be talking about the same issues next season. Like the defense might not be this what they hope it to be, where it's more consistent, it's physical, and or they're lacking physicality, or things might still be awry. But if you still have a new perspective of what works, or trying to build on that side of the ball, especially with where the structure and how things are changing, I appreciate the kind of you know I'm not surprised that someone that just got hired is good. He's not going to be excited. That would never happen. Of like, oh yeah, I'm the defense coordinator, and just
I think your feelings will change when you watch the video because he was like you've seen the Mike Van Gundy. I'm a man. I'm 40 rant, right?
I'm a Jeff. I'm 40.
Yeah,
Yeah, that kind of yeah.
it's a lot of that energy. Like he's fired up, and part of it I almost feel bad for him already. His his family hasn't moved out to Green Bay yet,
I saw. Okay, that was one of the quotes that
so
I saw.
he's just been grinding tape for like 16 hours a day. It's like Jeff, Like, I know it's winter in Wisconsin, there's much to do outside, but maybe just take it easy.
Not this winter
It's
though.
not even March.
Yeah,
They haven't even done the scouting combine yet. Like, if he's still grinding like last year's tape, like he doesn't even know he's gonna have out there yet. Um, but to your point about physicality, there was a quote or a tweet that Dusty Evely had in a thread talking about the type of defense that Hafley is going to play and hopes to play. And he said he was reading articles from his time at OSU. This is a quote that Hafley had in one of those articles. Quote: "Throwing the ball in the middle of the field, against us is not easy because if you catch it, you're going to feel it." Like that shows me that he's had a mantra of being physical on defense, and that's what Matt LaFleur said in today's press conference before Hafley spoke, was that he wants his defense to be flying around and like ball hawking and being physical. Like I don't think he wants so much like not cushiness anymore because that was never the case with Joe Barry's defense, but I think he wants like real intention and tackling and real like I don't want to say aggression because I think that's the wrong verb to use for today's NFL and how you should talk about defense in today's NFL. But just just hitting hard. I think Matt LaFleur just wants the defense to hit hard and wrap up and tackle. I'd assume what he's really looking for out of this defense with Jeff Hafley.
I welcome that.
Same. Like I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
Um, there's a lot of questions about the vision-based approach on defense, which LaFleur and Hafley both talked about. And upon doing a little bit of reading on it, and just like having what Hafley had explained to the media when he had said it, basically just a lot of eyes on the quarterback for their outside corners. Like instead of playing press man and eyeing up the receiver, or like in facing the receiver, it's a lot of turn your hips, watch the quarterback, and then you cover a certain route in a certain area. So Hafley said he does love to do press man and doesn't do it every down, but it'll be varied is what I'm seeing. They'll play a little bit of zone, they'll play a little bit of man, which every defensive coordinator does, but I think it'll be a different type of zone than we saw with Joe Barry's defense.
yes, which is
Critical.
ultimately ultimately the biggest what you need.
So yeah, it was a good press conference. It was good. It was energizing to say the least. Like I watched it.
Are you ready to run through a wall for Halfley?
I mean, watching it,
Gonna,
I was getting hyped. Like he said all
you
the
gonna give me
right
a half
things.
Nelson?
I mean, we have we haven't had any football played since he got hired and
It's true.
since he spoke. And I was talking to somebody in the Discord or whoever I was talking to, but like for some reason my gut was just telling me like I don't know if I like the hire or not. Like I really don't know if it's gonna work out just based on the small things that I had read and um some of the what's the word? Not rumors, but like speculation of why it didn't work out so well at Boston College while he was there, especially last year. And I watched this press conference today, and it totally changed my mind and all that. Like he can you can tell he's really fired up to actually make this work and get in there and get the defensive guys to trust him and really start working to making this defense a high flying defense like it should be with the talent it has across the board. So, anything else, Jordan, that you had to talk about with Hafley before, or should we move on to get into these grades?
No, I think it's grades time.
All
I
right.
think it's grades time.
Fitting that we talked about the defensive coordinator
Of
uh,
course.
on the pod where we were going to do grades for the defense. So, where do you want to start, Jordan? Do you want to go front to back or back to front? That is to say, do you want to start with the D line, go backers, go secondary, or do you want to go secondary, backers, D line?
Let's go. So I have mine edge, D tackle, linebackers, corners, safeties.
Okay. You want to do that?
Do you want to do that?
Sure. We can start with that.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the big man himself, Sean Gary, the highest paid player on that out of the edge rushers. What did you give our hopefully All Pro Rashawn Gary next year? Hopefully All Pro next year, edge rusher.
B.
I also gave him a B. top 20 in pressures despite being the 35th uh, ranked pass rusher and being 35th ranked in pass rushing snaps. Uh, two forced fumbles. I had his sacks up, and I don't know why they weren't just readily available for me.
Nine.
Thank you.
Flat nine.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, not his career high. I think his career high was a 9.5 in 2021. So, coming off of that injury year last year, got back to where he was in 2 years ago pre-injury. So, the hope for me is that like I think a B is just fine for Sean Gary. As we mentioned last week, this is for me against expectations of where what I expected that each individual player to do coming into the year. And for you, it is a rising scale from an F, and then you give them points for positivity. And so,
I sense a little animosity
not
in
no no no
that.
no, not even animosity. I just want to make sure everyone understands the difference in our grading
That's
scales.
true.
That's all. That's all. But like for me, the B was centered around, as I mentioned many times, I just needed him to get home more. Like, if you're going to be paid like the edge rusher that he's being paid as, and given that contract extension was mid-season, and that contract extension is for the future, right? Like, he's not earning that money this season. It's for next season and the years after that. And so, next year, he needs to be. I want him to be in the double-digit sack number for sure. Like, I think this year, T.J. Watt led the league
Was like
with
18.
I think it was something like 18. Trey Hendrickson, according to PFF, had 20, but I'm pretty sure there's varying numbers of sacks. Like I think ESPN
Yeah, but
had
how
about had
PFF credits sacks is
yeah
different than if you go to Pro Football Reference.
yeah I think 19 was like the official number if I remember correctly. But regardless, like I'm not saying I want Rashawn Gary to start being a leader in sacks in the NFL, which would be nice. I wouldn't be sad if that was the case, but I for sure wanted to get him within the 15 to like 17 range. Like it just, I think if he gets to this defense will be pretty, pretty hard to get around the uh, the entire way. Like it just needs to be up there with that many sacks, and he's capable of doing it. And hopefully he's healthy enough this offseason and continues just to be gets to 100% by the time training camp starts next year to be just ready to attack and go have a career year.
TJ Watt for just to close that loop. TJ Watt finished the year as a season leader, single season leader with 19 sacks.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Him and Trey
Uh,
Hendrickson were tied for 20 on PFF. So yeah, that's what I
um,
thought it was 19 because I didn't remember seeing anybody get the 20 for the official grades or numbers.
yeah, I think I'm not gonna really say anything different than you are in terms of Rashawn Gary. I thought his effectiveness was really good when he was playing limited snaps as they were trying to build him back up, and
Yep.
rightfully so after an ACL tear. But as those snaps rose, sacks were kind of lost in the shuffle. Um, and that's to be expected. It's this off season. He will not have to rehab.
Yep.
He will not have to do anything injury prevention wise. It's a normal off season. You basically get back to being fully healthy to play in football, to wear and tear and all this stuff all over again. And now that you don't have to go through a grueling rehabilitation for as freak of an athlete as he is, it'll be nice to kind of recuperate and not have to have it where he's trying to make it for the start of the season, even on a snap count and all that stuff. So yeah, like I I think it wouldn't have been as much of an issue if the rest of the defense was kind of obviously um what's the word for it, kind of doing their due diligence on it and stuff like
Yeah.
that, like
He
pressures.
his sack numbers weren't being helped at all by the fact that the secondary wasn't as good as it should be. Like
And
if he gets home more often, the secondary looks better because the quarterback isn't throwing it as often.
yeah, and I mean we'll get to other grades and stuff like that, but like this wasn't a disruptive pass rush in terms of like a total unit. There are
No.
guys that stood out,
Mm-hmm.
but it was kind of too few and far between. And that was honestly like kind of the as much of an emphasis was placed on the front for under Joe Barry.
Right.
That is kind of why we are seeing all the comments about why things are going to be different under
Right.
Hafley
Yep.
because of just there's only a limit that you can go with that.
Right. Exactly. That's kind of I'm right there with you. It's just it needs to be better across the board, and particularly now your star player on the line being edge rushers as well, just needs to be better too. So B for both of us for Rashawn Gary. Let's move on to the other side. Preston Smith, what'd you give him?
E minus.
You gave him a B minus.
I could easily go a C plus.
Really?
Yes,
I'm why? Because this is gonna be I think our biggest variance.
8 sacks on the year. Stepped it up in the playoffs.
8 sacks according to
Pro Football
okay
Reference.
okay.
So
P,
there,
I had 11 sacks for Preston on PFF. So
I'm guessing that is boosted by postseason
it is. It probably yep
because
yeah it is.
yeah, 1.5 sacks in both games.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Go
I
on.
just thought like it's kind of I felt like it was just kind of the quintessential Preston Smith experience where there's multiple weeks where it's like, okay, where's Preston Smith? Where's he stepping up and all that stuff? Especially when Rashawn Gary was kind of lighting up early, and then when that tails off, it's Preston Smith is doing things to be like, oh yeah, that's a reminder of who he is. Like he is a very fine NFL player, and when he has things rolling, he can be very disruptive. He can be a problem. But again, those things were kind of too few and far between. Or it really turned on again as the Packers were kind of figuring things out in the second half and to do what he did in the playoffs, especially when the defense was kind of holding up their end of the bargain to some degree. That did kind of elevate what I would say is like, oh, this is the median Preston Smith kind of season to be like, well, at least we saw something like this.
Right.
So
I gave him an A minus.
interesting.
Yeah. I
I thought you were going lower.
no. I really liked his season. Like I think he showed up really well in games where we needed to, and I think part of why his like the idea behind his season didn't feel as good as maybe you thought it did or others thought he did, is he had his best games during the worst part of the year. He had 1 sack according to PFF, 1 sack on 4 pressures against the Raiders, 1 sack on 2 pressures against Denver, 2 sacks on 5 pressures against Minnesota, 1 pressure on, or I'm sorry, 1 sack on 2 pressures against Pittsburgh, and then a couple more strewn throughout the year. 5 pressures in both the Chargers and Detroit game, the Thanksgiving game, and so like I just felt like he was getting like pressure really often. He had 52 total pressures this year. That was second behind Rashawn Gary who had 66. And so, but he had more pressures. I guess no. You said how many did he have for the regular season? For 8.
He had 8 sacks and then 1.5 in the two playoff games.
So I'm just going off PFF because that's what we have here. On PFF, he
Yeah.
had more sacks than Sean Gary this year in uh 52 more snaps. So or pass rushing snaps, and so that's just fine. But given the veteran that he is, given that he was asked to do a lot more than just pass rush. Like he was in coverage 50 snaps out of the
It's
year.
true.
Like
Yeah.
he didn't give up a touchdown in coverage this year. Only gave up 71 yards on 6 receptions. Like that's not too bad for Preston Smith, who's not supposed to be in coverage in the first place. And so, yeah, I just liked what he had. He had 2 forced fumbles, just like Rashawn Gary did. Um, yeah, I 32 total tackles. I just liked his season. Like I thought he performed quite well, and it makes the discussion about what to do with him for next year tough because I think he still has a lot of value as an edge rusher on this team, especially with now with JJ Enagbari being out probably the
That
majority of
is,
next season.
yep.
It going in with at the moment just Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness is a little bit testy. I wouldn't, I guess, unless they plan on really bumping up Brenton Cox Jr.'s role, which they could, because like they,
That's a lot of
oh that,
youth.
well yeah, that's a lot of youth, and it's a big step for a guy that was undrafted out of the draft last year. Well, no, duh,
Hmm.
undrafted out of the draft, undrafted last year as a rookie. But they believe in him because otherwise they wouldn't have kept him on the roster all year long. He didn't get in a game, or he did get in a game. I apologize. He was in 3 games with 9 total snaps. It looks like 10 total snaps. So regardless of it all, it's just like Preston Smith has value, and I think he really showcased that value this year, especially when Rashawn Gary wasn't having his best games. So
Fair.
that's why I was like genuinely curious as to why you gave him a C plus or whatever you gave him B minus, because I thought he played well.
Fair. It's fair.
That's
I
fair.
thought he played well, but you want to see a little bit more.
On to Lucas Van Ness. I gave him a B.
Steve Miles.
C minus.
Yeah.
That is that just because you didn't see enough from him this year based on your grading scale?
Um. I mean, to that point, kind of, yeah. Like I thought it was more. He had 444 total snaps, which is not nothing. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's a
quite a
lot.
few for someone that wasn't a first stringer.
Yeah, he played
Um,
in one more game than JJ Anibari did and had 50 less snaps.
I thought perhaps it's expectations or what. Like I thought in terms of the flashes, like he's in the flashes category. There are other guys that will obviously get to in the defense that I thought just brought a lot more. Like that's not a knock on Lucas Van Ness because he did have some really good moments. I thought his he increasingly showed to get after it and his kind of burst anticipation. You could see in glimpses how it can come together if you become a fully disruptive player. It's again it's more of a realization that he played 440 snaps and there's only so much you can really grade on and go on and stuff like that. So it's not, I wouldn't, again, based on my scale and stupid whatever, it's not a demerit to say that, like, hey, a guy that doesn't play that often didn't really flash all the time. There were really good spots and you could see the potential of why the Packers drafted him. What was he, 13th overall last year?
I think so. Yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Or 15th based because of the Rogers trade, whatever it was.
Yeah.
No,
It was
they had the
13th.
15th overall pick and then they went to 13th.
Yeah.
Either way, I thought that he just kind of there's you'll see the substance hopefully as soon as you two.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's the hope, right? I
Yeah,
I give I give him a B. 6 sacks. I think this
he
one.
really had 6 sacks.
Yeah, according to PFF.
Mm.
According to PFF, he had 6 in 19 games. I don't remember what he had for like the regular season total.
4
So,
for PFR.
uh, Pro Football Reference for those following along. Uh, Trying to see. He did not. He had a sack against Dallas, but then he had he had a sack against the Chicago in Week 1 where he had 5 total pressures, which is crazy as a first game rookie. That's crazy. Then he had one against Kansas City. He had none in between those times, and then one against Tampa, and then one against Minnesota and Chicago in back-to-back weeks in 17-18. And
Mm.
so, like, for me, I think it was a B for the sole fact that he was getting home. Like 6 times is pretty good for a rookie. And that being said, he like the shine is still like yet to come through. He did have a lot of times where he overextended on his edge rush and opened up the pocket for quarterbacks to be able to run out of the pocket and gain yards, which is like you have to learn to not push so far upfield as an edge rusher. And if he can refine that, I think he's going to be quite good. I think the biggest thing for me is that the mistakes never really showed for me. I didn't really ever like watch Lucas Van Ness play and be like, man, he's clearly bad right now. He's not getting. He's like getting stonewalled. He's getting pushed off his blocks. Like he's just getting overpowered. I never really saw that from him out of this year. He didn't like grade out super well on PFF, but I'm not holding that against him. He had 25 tackles, which is for edge rushers the third most, or behind. I'm sorry, second most behind Preston Smith. Preston Smith had 32 total tackles, and then Lucas Van Ness and JJ Enagbari both had 25. And so like he was getting there. His missed tackle rate was pretty good. Lowest on the team for the Packers at the edge rush. He only missed 2 tackles all year long. Like I just think he had a very solid rookie season, something to build off of for sure. And so again, against expectations, you got to be. You did better than I thought you would coming out of the draft at your C range, which is what I said last week. Is that I started everyone off at a C and then went up and down from there.
To your credit, per the scale that PFF uses, Lucas Van Ness finished fifth for rookie edge rushers this year in sacks.
So not too bad, not
Not
too
too
bad.
bad.
So yeah, I'm excited to watch him grow because I think he's gonna be quite good. So it's just a matter of getting there first. So uh, next up, JJ Enagbari. What'd you give him?
I did see.
Gave him a C plus. So I think that was the closest we were on so far. So good start,
Yeah.
good start. Solid year from JJ Enagbari. It sucks that he got injured when he did because he was really coming on and making a lot of progress. Um,
Yes.
it's just gonna be a tough, I guess, path to growth for him now with Lucas Van Ness coming into form and they signed Rashawn Gary. Like if he comes back well at the end of next year, whenever he does come back, if he comes back next year, and then starts off his following year good, he could be in a good spot to still be that third edge rusher once Preston Smith is gone, which I imagine if he's not gone this year. But yeah, I really liked JJ's game this year. 2 total sacks only, but on 27 pass rushes, which is good. Lucas Van Ness had 6 on 22, so that's like a big thing. Is that Lucas Van Ness was getting home almost 25% of the time on his pass rush. Um, JJ Enagbari not so much, but again didn't miss a whole lot of tackles, only 5, assisted on a few more, had 25 total as I mentioned. I think he played well. He had no forced fumbles, but um, was just kind of a good filler. You know what I mean? Like we talked about that a lot this season, where we needed somebody to make a play where Preston Smith was out a couple plays, or Rashawn Gary was was out a couple plays, and there's JJ Enagbari making a play in the run game, making a sack here and there. So yeah, C plus.
Yeah, I think he's a very good rotational edge rusher and really made strides as a run defender. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm looking at PFF's stats right now. He had just a hair more run defense snaps than Rashawn Gary. You know what I mean? Like, again, part
Right.
of that is snap count and all that stuff and context that way. But he was out there for a lot of them, and he did make disruptive plays that way. And I thought he was kind of the most sound edge defender outside of in the non Preston Smith category, you know what I mean, in terms of just kind of youthful guys that are playing. So it's a really I think it's a big bummer that he's got hurt, especially when it happened,
Yep.
because it does cast a lot of doubt of how much we'll see him next year.
Yeah.
I don't think he would miss all of next year, but I'm not a doctor, so don't listen to me. But yeah, it sucks. And it really like kind of opens up the opportunity that the Packers maybe do they look at another edge rusher deep in the draft, or do
Yeah.
they
I wouldn't even say
in
high
free
in the
agency?
draft.
I don't think it definitely won't be high, but like
They might.
that
The depth there is really bad right now.
it is bad, and especially
They pick at
the
25. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they did. You know what I mean?
I
Like
think a lot of people will be really unhappy with that, especially when you took LVN.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think there are people be mad, but when's the last time that the Packers picked a
Oh,
player
of course.
that
Yeah, yeah,
we all
yeah.
saw coming? Like, I'm gonna butcher his name, but for example, the fella out of Toledo, I think it's Quinyon Mitchell. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Um, he's mocked 13 to the Raiders, but which is a far way from the Packers. But right now the Packers are mocked with Kool-Aid McKinstry. Like if it shakes
I'm
out
drinking
that way
Kool-Aid already.
and Kool-Aid's there, I would bet a good amount of money that the Packers don't pick him because
No,
when have they? When have they listened to fan desire? And that's fine. They do this for a job. Brian Gutekunst has showcased that he knows how to draft well. Just look at this draft this past year. They made a lot of great picks, and worked out. So, but for example, right behind Kool-Aid McKinstry is Chop Robinson from Penn State, edge rusher. So they like it's right there, and we're
what a name! That is a great
a lot
name.
of strong names this year. A lot of strong names
I
this
think
year.
we have to do an all draft name list this year. I
We
think that might be a segment on a future pod.
we could do it in one of our draft
I'm calling it now,
trivia.
though. I think the Packers, one of the however many free agents that they sign, it could be as many as two, it could be as many as like seven.
They don't have that much draft cap or that much cap space to work with.
They don't. But one of the, I think they sign an edge rusher, maybe of notoriety.
Maybe, but that's for a different pod, Jordan. Let's get on with some more
Yes,
grades. Let's go back to the defensive line, the interior defensive line. Gotta start with the big man, Kenny Clark. What'd you give him?
B.
I give him a B plus. Top five, top five in sacks with 10 for interior defensive linemen. Uh, top six in pressures, had really good grades across the board for PFF, but just a bad run grade. I think he is just solid. It's really hard to gauge the importance and I guess the really the dominance that some interior defensive linemen have from time to time. Like unless you're like Aaron Donald, it's just hard to really manifest just how good those players are. But yeah, he played quite well this year. 10 sacks on 66 pass rushes. I'm sorry, pressures. He had 556 pass rushing snaps.
Yeah, yeah. Career high also in
Yes,
sacks.
yes, yes.
So not nothing. That's a arrow in his quiver. I thought, yeah, Kenny Clark was really good down the stretch. He's just kind of Mr. Dependable, like as much as
Mm-hmm.
kind of whether it's health, whether it's just the effectiveness of the entire front line. He's the biggest key in any opposing team scouting report of like, hey, we're gonna double team him and try to
They have
neutralize
to,
as
and
much as
that's why he
and
looks as bad as he does. Not as bad, quote unquote, but looks as neutralized as he does because he gets doubled so often.
yeah, yeah, it puts a lot of more emphasis on Devontae Wyatt, Brooks, Wooden, kind of the other TJ Sladen, the other big guys that are
Yeah,
on the line and stuff like that. So yeah, but he's just so good.
he
He's
is very
so
good.
good.
The second half of the season, as you mentioned, was really where he shined. Starting with the Pittsburgh game in Week 10, he had this is just pressures. I'll mention sacks when they come, but Week 10, starting with at Pittsburgh, he had three pressures in that game, and then 6, 8, 6 with a sack, 2, 4 with two sacks, 3, 6, and 5 to end the season. 8 pressures in a game is bonkers, Jordan.
For an interior
For
lineman.
an interior lineman. It's insane. And then one pressure against the Cowboys, and I think he had 4 against the Niners. So, like he just was solid the entire second half of the season. Like it really showed. I'm not sure why he didn't grade out as well. Like that's kind of stunning to me. Like in a game where he gets uh in a game where he gets 6 pressures, 6 hurries, he had 1 tackle and 1 missed tackle, and they gave him a 58, which like maybe they really just knocked him on the missed tackle on 2 chances, but I don't know, man. Six hurries is or six pressures is tough work.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So good on Kenny Clark. B plus. I mean, I'm looking through those stats. I'm almost debating giving an A minus, but I think he just has to be a little better in the run game to get that A in my opinion.
Certainly. I would agree with that.
Um, who do you want to go to next? Do we go to? I'm curious. Like, I think we leave Carl Brooks and Kobe Wooden for last since they're rookies. But do you want to go to Slayton or Wyatt?
Wyatt. Let's go Wyatt.
I want to know what you had for him.
I had a C.
I had in my notes B minus or C plus, but I couldn't decide which, and I think after mulling it over, I'm gonna give him a C plus. He was top 15 in sacks in the NFL for defensive linemen with seven. So take that into account. He was top 20 in pressures, had a really good pass rush grade, but was really bad against the run and had a really bad tackle grade. He was his missed tackle percentage was third worst amongst D linemen in the NFL. And
Oh,
like that's the one that stood out the most, right? Like that was a very obvious metric that you could tell that he was missing tackles all over the place this year. He had 15 missed tackles, good for 30% of his tackle attempts.
hmm.
15 missed tackles, 25 total tackles on the year.
Not good.
No,
And on the other side of it, though, you mentioned that he graded out really well as in his pass rush grade per
he did.
PFF. He had the highest pass rush grade of any Packer,
Mm-hmm.
just a
Like
hair smidge over Kenny Clark.
he was really good at getting past his lineman, but he couldn't tackle. And that was like what was that was evidence, Jordan, by that like I shouldn't say evidenced. The quintessential play was the Niners game. He
McCaffrey.
busts through the line. Exactly.
Yeah.
He busts through the line and Christian McCaffrey is there in his midst. He's literally got his arms around him and he just let go. And McCaffrey goes and runs for a first down or a few yards to get it closer to what was eventually a first down. And we talked about it post game. It was one of the bigger swing moments of that drive that led them to be able to come back. And so I'm not pinning it on Devontae Wyatt, but it's one of those things where if he just makes a tackle, that game might look a lot different
Yeah.
at its end. So,
Yep. It's one thing to be really athletic and physical, and there's no negatives there. It's always been about how do you fill that out, discipline, technique, all that stuff, fundamentals.
mm-hmm,
Perhaps it gets there, maybe with a new man in charge. But yeah, I thought he made really good strides in certain ways, and it's the things that he has to improve on are really like stark, you know, and that happens. It's not going to be as much as there's all this attention on, well, he was an older class for or older player for his draft class and all that stuff. It hits guys differently. Like
mm-hmm,
progression or development is not linear all the time.
right.
Certainly, I would say all the time, not all the time, but all the time. So hopefully that's something that kind of rounds out, smooths out the edges that Devontae Wyatt still has to work out.
Yeah, I think that with a new defensive coordinator, bringing in new coaches and such, I genuinely believe that excuse me that this year is the make or break year for Devontae Wyatt. If he can't improve his run defense and he can't improve his tackling, it's not going to look good for his fifth year option being picked up after next year, and that'll stink because like I'm one of the biggest Devontae Wyatt champions that I know. Like I'm singing his praises quite often during the season. I did sing his praises quite often during the season, but it's just like those are the two things he really has to focus on. Like as an interior defensive lineman, you have to be good at stopping the run. It's like half your job is being able to plug holes. And he was really good at it in college, which is why the Joe Barry aspect of it is frustrating because I like when I went to look way back when the Packers were in their slump of the season, I was like, oh well, maybe they go pick up a interior defensive lineman to stop the run because they cannot stop the run. Maybe like they get like a star one up at 7 or 8. And
Mhm.
I looked, I was curious, like, what does Devontae White grade out as coming out of college? He was really good against the run at Georgia. He was really good. And so it's just like the potential is there. He knows how to. I think they just need to put in a better coaching scheme and a better defensive scheme for the line to be able to succeed against stopping the run. And hopefully they found a D coordinator in Jeff Hafley that can do that because it's going to be as important as it always is for this defense to succeed. Next up, TJ Slayton. What'd you give him?
See,
Gave him a C minus. I didn't. I wasn't really enthused with this game at all this year. No sacks. Uh, no forced fumbles. Like just he had on the team 679 total snaps. Third most, if I'm not mistaken, amongst Packers. Second most. He barely beat out Devontae Wyatt, but he had uh 200 less pass rushing snaps again than Kenny Clark and 50 more, 30 more run defense snaps, and his run defense grade was like just average. Um,
second most run defense snaps,
yeah.
one behind Quay Walker.
Mm-hmm. No sacks, 16 total pressures. Only had one hit. Had one batted ball, 42 um, tackles. He had 7 missed tackles. No forced fumbles, as I mentioned. Like, just not inspiring, frankly. And for a guy that's in year 3, if I'm not mistaken,
You are correct.
it's just has to be better. Like, this is the the bottom, the worst outcome for like what Devontae Wyatt's year could look like next year, and like it just has to be better than that for TJ Slade. Like I know he was, I think a fifth round pick. Yeah, he was a fifth round
Hmm.
pick in 2021 out of Florida, and it just hasn't ever really been there for him. He didn't have any sacks. He has 2 career sacks that came in his rookie year. It's just like the progression and then the growth hasn't been there for TJ Slayton. So yeah, C minus for him for me.
Yeah, I mean, he played the most snaps of his career this season in terms of a single year.
Yeah,
And when you're more of a run defense specialist like he is, and considering the Packers' struggles on that in that department, like
yeah,
it's not like he wasn't disruptive in some plays, but I do think he's just kind of a very limited option in what they have, and it's someone that they can upgrade on. But if you keep him, if you upgrade defensive or interior lineman, or if Devontae Wyatt makes a jump and he takes away from his snap count, like you can live with it, but it doesn't necessarily make you kind of complete at that end. So he's again kind of rotational kind of guy, and I'm sure welcome the chance to play as much as he did last year, but you know it's not perfect by any means.
no. For context, he had for PFF's metric of stops, he had 35, and a stop as a failure for the offense. And given he's an interior defensive lineman, a stop for him is almost certainly something in the run game because he's not going to be out covering receivers. There's not many passes in his area of the field, right on the line of scrimmage there where he'll be making a tackle. But he led the team in stops or led the defensive line unit in stops with 35. Um, Devontae Wyatt had 26 uh, in rush defense snaps, 100 less. So I mean, I guess like he did plug some holes once in a while, but the grade doesn't speak to that. Which it's grades. It's not that big. It's not that clear cut of a metric. But we've said it before. We trust them because they watch every snap of every game and know what and generally know what a good play is and what a good play isn't. So yeah, C minus for me. I think you said C for TJ Slayton, correct?
Yeah.
Which rookie do you want to go to first, Jordan?
Cool.
Carl?
Mhm.
Carl Brooks? Gave him a B.
B minus.
He did both of them I was thoroughly enthused with this year. Um Carl Brooks 4 sacks on 30 pressures. Had pretty good grades for a rookie. He had his pass rushing grade was 70, which was third in for the Packers, I believe. Yeah, behind Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt. A solid 70 as a compared to the 76s that Devontae and Kenny had. Just a solid rookie year. Really showed a lot of promise. Like 4 sacks on 30 rushes is pretty darn good when you look at TJ Slayton, who had 16 pressures and no sacks. Like he's already kind of taken over that spot from TJ Slayton, in my opinion, for next year. And he played 230 less snaps than TJ Slayton did.
Yeah. it- we talked about like TJ Slayton being a late draft pick, and in my head I was like kind of just like, well, yeah, that kind of comes with the territory. Carl Brooks is, I believe, a fourth rounder, like deeper in the draft, but not like super.
Sixth round.
He was sixth rounder, yeah. I'm confusing him and Colby Wooden. Colby Wooden was fourth rounder, Carl Brooks sixth rounder. So in my head I was thinking, oh yeah, that's typical fifth round draft picks. Carl Brooks plays fewer snaps and had a lot more flashes, and I'd be like, oh, that guy could be really something. I again far off. We're far off of any predictions. I think Carl Brooks is high up there in terms of breakout player.
Oh, absolutely. Right, they did a redraft um for the last season's draft, and Carl Brooks went like top 20 for whoever it
What?
was. They did a redraft.
Top 20?
I'm pretty sure. I don't know where I saw it or what it was. I'll try and find it quick. But someone did a redraft of the 2023 draft. Um, I don't
With
think it was.
Dane Brugler?
No, it wasn't anybody like.
Was it ESPN? Because they have a very recent one.
You could check it. It might have been
I'm reading.
ESPN.
I. People are just going to have to bear
There,
with me
yeah,
right now.
but he was high up because I was like surprised that despite having a really good season, um, that they'd put him that high. But like I said, I don't know where I saw it or when I saw it, but I remember seeing it quite.
On this one, this ESPN one, he went 56th.
Here, so this is CBS Sports did a redraft of the 2023 draft, and Carl Brooks went 20th to the Seahawks.
What?
Yep, yep. So like, it's not nothing. CBS Sports is a uh, reputable football like coverage outlet, and they had him 20. Like, it's it's wild. I'm with you, but it's crazy. Also, maybe they're not so reputable. They did the they did the redraft, and two is Will Levis instead of instead of
Okay.
instead
Well,
instead of Bryce Young.
okay.
um,
Okay.
but yeah, like there was a couple. They had like Carl Brooks went 20. They put Jaden Reed 22, and then there was one more Packer. I thought
What?
Devontae Wicks at 31 to the Chiefs. Not Tavian Wicks, not Devontae. Not Tavian Wicks. So, and honestly, Jordan, like, tell me,
Jay Reed is two picks low. Okay. I'm not feeding this redraft from a rival. Um,
Carl Brooks went
that
20, Zay Flowers went 21 to the Chargers, and Reed went 22 to the Ravens. Like, that's not not outside the realm of possibility. They played very well. Like, and Dontavia Wicks, think
I
about
know
it. Like, listen, it maybe it's cracked out, but it's
it
hot.
is.
But I'm looking at the rest of um the rest of the redraft guys, and Jalen Carter is the first D lineman off. Then Colby Turner, um, Keanu Benton, who had a really good year with the Steelers, and then Tuli Tulapulutu um is next, and then Carl Brooks. Like, it wasn't like he was the first one off, but he had a really solid year, Jordan.
I know. I'm not disparaging Carl Brooks's year. I'm disparaging putting him 20th in a redraft, 2 spots ahead of Jaden Reed. That's bonkers.
It's a more valuable position.
Sure.
And and he went to the Seahawks. Like,
I don't think is, but I would not. I,
it doesn't
I don't
matter.
want to just.
Yep. Okay. Yep. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Um, Colby Wooden.
Yeah.
Give me your grade for Colby Wooden.
Um, C minus.
C minus.
Yeah.
Really? Why?
He had 298 snaps.
Yeah.
I thought it's not again. If you don't
It's 150 less than Carl Brooks.
20th in a redraft, Carl Brooks.
I know, but like, it's not absurd. It was it
It's
was
not absurd.
it was for sure the fewest amongst the Packers D linemen, which makes sense. He was a rookie, and
It's
he
really the fewest of any. I mean, below him is Eric Wilson, who's a special teamers that filled in for injuries, and then we're getting to Eric Stokes, Justin Hollins, who didn't even finish out the year, Zane Anderson, who's actually a real player, and we eventually got to see he only had 14 snaps. So like Colby Wooden was at the
bottom. But
fourth string.
I mean, to be fair, it's Colby Wooden in the fourth string. Above him is Anthony Johnson Jr., and then the next highest is Carl Brooks. Like,
20th in a redraft.
I know, but the point being is that he was young. Like, the for the Packers, uh, Colby Wooden had the 20th most defensive snaps. 19th was Anthony Johnson Jr., 18th was Carl Brooks, 17th was Lucas Van Ness. Like, they were all the rookies. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that there's a 140 snap gap between Wooden and Brooks, but that's kind of the gig when you have five of them, right? They don't play five down linemen. They play sometimes two, sometimes three. I go on about your reasoning behind Wooden, because
I again
I gave him a B.
flashes. He I saw flashes. I thought for limited opportunities, he probably 1 out of every 6 plays or that he had. Thought we saw something. It just wasn't. Again, not of his own doing, but we just didn't see him as much as everybody else. So therefore, you know, the more I see of you, the higher or
I
lower the grade will be.
I
I
keep getting
know
I keep getting messed up that we have different standards. He had 12 pressures, one
this is
sack, two hits.
America.
It is America. 14 tackles, um, three missed tackles, nine stops for what that's worth in your book. I just think he had a solid year. I think for a rookie, he had a solid year. I think this D line's in a great place going forward. Like,
Where would you put him in a redraft?
shut up.
Sorry.
Um, I just think it's a solid year. I think that it's in a good spot going forward. The second year will be an important year for Colby Wooden to see what he really
Yeah.
does. Does he usurp TJ Slayton? Does he get to Carl Brooks's level, like, in potential? Like,
Also, if we're switching formations and schemes and you're going to 4 down linemen, you have more
you have more
opportunity to.
opportunities. Yeah.
There
So
you go.
there we go.
I don't know why I did.
Alrighty, that does it for the line. Let's move to the linebackers. Start with the leader of the core, Quay Walker.
This is a tough one because I think I ultimately wanted to be a little bit more bullish than I was. I don't know if you felt the same.
Bullish is
I
optimistic, right?
Yes,
Okay.
bull market, bear market.
Yeah, and I forget which one's which.
Yeah, I did see.
I gave him a C plus. I wasn't really enthused.
I
Really good tackling grade, but not good much else. 3 sacks on 16 pressures, not necessarily the metrics that you're wanting
oh,
to uh, to measure your linebackers by. What did you say?
also we didn't really see him until like that Vikings game blitz,
Yeah,
which he has that in him,
he
but
does. He does.
neither here nor there.
Correct. Um, but what I think is the most, I don't want to say telling, but that same metric I had earlier with stops, like what is a failure for the offense, or does the player make a play that results in a failure for the offense? Quay Walker led the back and core with 43, but there was other players on the D line that had more. I'm trying to sort by the most here. Quay Walker led the edge rushers, the backers, and the D line with 43, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but it just felt worse this year. I wasn't really inspired. I
I
still,
think that is the word right there, inspired,
yeah,
because a lot of the season he was the green dot. Devondre Campbell was hurt. We'll get to him in a second.
mm-hmm, yeah,
I just felt like there was a lot asked of him, and we kind of just we saw the good things and we saw the limitations. Like we would come in here, do pods about uh okay, who how are they going to deploy Quay Walker if it's like a really tough tight end or and stuff like that. But in coverage, he's not that good. He's not impactful, physical enough to
no,
really.
he had 67 targets, 54 receptions, 538 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had one
Yeah,
interception, which take that for what you will, but yeah, just
should have more if you're thinking about that Atlanta game.
three PBUs, an NFL rating of 104, a pass rating of 104 against him.
No.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean,
Yeah, I
it could
just
be worse. We're about to talk about a guy that is way worse.
yeah, I continue to see the value of Quay Walker. I just think I ultimately like the linebacker. There's gonna be a lot of focus on getting better corners. Certainly, safety. I mean, it's we thought it was the worst position in the league, position group in the league going into the year, and it wasn't necessarily that, but it wasn't much better. But man, to get an All Pro linebacker, which is, I'm expecting like up here when that is one of the hardest things to do. But I don't know if Quay Walker is exactly that, but I think there's a better way to utilize his talents and his strengths that under Joe Barry they that was obviously just not possible.
Yeah, I think what I really want from him is to be the impact guy over the middle. Like I just need him to be better. Like, could you imagine if we had like 80% of Fred Warner out of Quay Walker? Like, I know it's such a bad argument to make, but like that type of impact linebacker,
But that
like Fred Warner, Eric Kendricks, I'm trying to think of like just
Patrick Queen
Patrick Queen, like these guys over the
name
middle
the
are
name the final four teams. You had Fred Warner with
the Niners.
San Francisco, Patrick Queen with Baltimore. Kansas City had Nick Bolton, who coming out of injury, and then I forget who the other kind of
The
were.
Lion. I forget his name.
Anzalone.
Yeah, like good players.
Yeah, good players, and it's a position that has kind of gotten passed over. And I understand it, like injury wise and everything like that. Like there is a lot of volatility, but like the best teams that go far in the playoffs usually have really good to the best linebackers in the league that
Yeah.
get all pro and Pro Bowl honors or whatever individual players
Yep.
awards you want to give to them.
Yep. Linebackers that can do multiple things. They can cover. They can pass rush, both at elite rates. So that's honestly one of the things I wanted to see the Packers assess or approach in the draft as a solid linebacker. Because I'm not really sure what they're going to do with Devondre Campbell, but if they can get a standout guy to go with Quay Walker, like Quay Walker has great tackling ability. He's really good at it, and he's one of the only like surefire tacklers on the team. Um, if they can pair another guy with him, that's a pretty good linebacking core. Just as like a you kind of cap all your bases covered at that point. So,
I forgot about Roquan Smith with Baltimore as well.
yep, former Bear, which is shocking, just insane. Um,
Yeah,
Devondre Campbell,
D plus.
C, marred by injuries this season. I wanted to give him lower, but um, I think it really just came down to he just was not having good luck with injuries. He only played in 13 games. You could tell he wasn't healthy for all of them. So
Mm-hmm.
I it wasn't an incomplete year for me, but I gave him a C because I didn't really feel like ragging on the guy for trying to tough it out while he was hurt, obviously, and frustrated a lot of the year. But to your point of you said you gave him a D,
D plus.
D plus. Like it wasn't a good year for Devondre Campbell. One sack, seven total pressures, a couple of hurries, 25 stops. The biggest thing though is that he had 35 receptions, 420 yards, three touchdowns with a passer rating against him of 129. That's really bad. And like a lot of that is scheme, right? Joel Berry shouldn't have been putting Devondre Campbell in coverage at all. It just shouldn't have been
Yeah,
happening. And that's part of like if you guys are mad at me for giving average grades to these players, like I'll spoil it for you. I didn't give anybody a D. Um, and it's because I genuinely believe that a lot of these players were being put in poor positions by Joe Barry's defense. Devondre Campbell has never proved to be a good coverage linebacker. Why are we still putting him out there?
he did in 1 year.
I mean, but it's been bad for two.
Yeah,
Like he played good coverage linebacker his first year when he earned that contract, but then he stopped playing good coverage linebacker. And
yeah.
so like there has to be a method to the madness, and for Joe Barry there wasn't. He was going off of 2 year old
It was
data.
madness, all right.
It was madness, and so for me, I just wanted he made some plays. He was fine. Like if you really wanted to twist my arm, I could give him a C minus or an incomplete, honestly, because I just really think he got hampered by injuries this year. That really made his play look a lot worse than it was. But that doesn't mean I don't want to move on from him from this offseason. I think it is time to move on from Devondre Campbell. But I feel icky giving him a lower grade than that.
Yeah, I mean,
Not to say
I
that
agree.
you're a gross person in the first place because you gave him a
Well,
D
I am.
plus.
I'm very gross.
Ugh,
No,
yuck.
no. I agree with you. I think the grade is as much of a characterization of just how the Packers played. I mean, the further we get along in these grades, the worse they will be because those position groups did not look as strong under Joe Barry.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's the simple truth.
Yeah.
And
I said yeah because you said they're going to get worse. They don't get that much worse for me.
there'll probably be an exception or two, but
Yeah.
largely it's not as glowing as it was for Edge and IDL.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really, I think it's a bummer because the guy was, they really relied on him being a leader after he decided to come back, which no one thought was. going to happen. I didn't certainly think that was going to happen.
No, none of us did. We all kind of
And
thought he was gone.
they hand out this big contract, and that was kind of the one like, okay, well, that's you're making a big bet, and perhaps again the volatility of you know linebacker position in this current day and age. Granted, it's an older NFL linebacker, a journeyman NFL linebacker too, but off the best year, you make that decision. You're still going for the present, everything like that, and just injuries. Like I think was last year, it was a knee injury that forced him to miss a few games. This year, it's an ankle, and he kind of mandated himself. But it was clear, like just play. You play the players that are more healthy than not. If he can't give you 100%, don't play him, or even whatever percentage number that you want to give him, 87.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I just think it's a shame if this we had seen the or if we have seen the last of DeAndre Campbell in Green Bay. I really he his that first year man was really something, and it showed us that hey, linebackers are really impactful. The
Yeah.
Packers have tried to find a linebacker for a very long time, and Devondre Campbell for 1 year gave him an All Pro linebacker.
Yeah. And then
That's something.
he wasn't, which sucks. Which
as
sucks.
it was.
As it was. Isaiah McDuffie.
C minus.
Really? I gave him a B. I was inspired by his play this year. I thought he made a lot of impact plays this year.
See, I again another guy that was in my head. I was like, I think he did a lot better than what it was. And there are a lot of times where I thought he was the more superior linebacker, especially compared to
I
where
agree.
Devondre Campbell was.
I agree.
I think trying to look at it more objectively, you kind of see. I don't know what the parallel would be elsewhere on the roster for someone that kind of is knocking on the door for more snaps, second stringer, kind of in between of like, well, you're playing more snaps than the second stringer, but you know what I mean? Do you have a
I was gonna
suggestion?
say Bull Melton, guy that's knocking on the door to be playing more than he is, but doesn't really get an opportunity because of the people ahead of him, unless
I
there's
can't
injury.
remove myself from he just was on the roster that therefore, you know what I mean?
What do you mean?
He just was on the roster until week or
Oh,
on the
I see what you're saying. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I see.
elevated to
Yeah, yeah,
play.
yeah, yeah.
But for Isaiah McDuffie, I again a player that I was thought I was going to have a higher grade than I ended up having, and it just kind of is like, well, yeah, he was a superior option to Devondre Campbell, but what does that really say?
Yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean?
I get it. What did you give him? You gave him a C, C minus.
Let me bring this up again. C minus.
Okay, which I think is the equivalent to my B. Like you rose. Did your grade
That's
start
true.
from F or D minus?
No, because I had a higher
No, no,
opinion of
no.
him.
Did your grade start from F or D minus? You're
F.
okay. So a full grade you went up for, which is what I did too. Like mine started at C, I went to B. You started at F, went to C minus.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just was I liked his play this year. I think he filled in quite nicely when he did. Um, didn't give up a touchdown in coverage this year despite having 25 receptions and 218 yards. Um, trying to scroll over quickly to get his numbers that were for his NFL grade 92.7. Pretty good. Pretty good. Under 100 is usually like average. So, say what you will about that. Hope
For the
excuse me.
middle of the field,
Yeah.
too.
Plus he gets to he's not a free agent, is he? No, I don't think he is.
I'm looking.
I don't think so. I think he has 1 year left. But hopefully he does because if he does, he gets to play with his old head coach and Jeff Hafley. So, Eric Wilson, what'd you give him?
C.
I gave him a C. Just like
I
average.
average, probably more looked at it as special teams impact than anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, the 49ers game was the biggest moment that he could have stepped up for. And really, like, I think a lot of talk of the special teams and Rich Bisaccia and these, the guys that he kind of pegged for, hey, we're going to bring these down Levitts, the um, Keyshawn Nixon. I'm missing other guys that either were on the team or eventually got cut or just I'm forgetting
Anthony
entirely.
Johnson Jr. was a special team guy.
Yes, I thought Eric Wilson is kind of like the brightest spot of that,
Yeah.
and I think that's where he's. I mean, he's gonna be on an NFL roster based on that alone,
Yep.
and that's something.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I don't really have any commentary on Eric Wilson that outside of what you just said. So we shall move on.
20th in a redraft though. Sorry, I can't
I'll
stop
fight
myself.
you. It's a
I
it's
can't
a
even.
it's a good thing.
I understand that. I'm not. I don't have a problem with your. I don't have a problem with that. It's just that shit.
I disagree. I think he had a good enough year as a rookie D lineman to warrant him being taken 20th because of the potential that he's showing. That's a like I, we're not getting into it. I'm gonna fight. Um, let's move on to the secondary and start with the obvious
Ugh.
star, Jair Alexander.
I think the hardest one to do because this year was not good. It was
No,
not good. Even his best game, he didn't even finish because of injury. Like there's just
he
always something
he,
going
he
on.
played 9 games,
Played 9 games
so
and how many snaps? 560.
560.
Rudy Ford had more snaps than Jair Alexander, which is saying something
Yep,
because Rudy Ford got benched.
yep.
I
Did he
gave him a
really?
C minus. Yes, he did.
Um, I gave him a B minus, which is tough to defend. I made these
That
last.
would be the motto of the Joe Barry Packers.
Yeah,
Tough to
I
defend.
don't know, man. He gave up 2 touchdowns. He had 1 interception. I'm trying. Give me a moment. I'm trying to look at these a little better.
Cowboys game, he came up big.
What? Yeah, Cowboys
Cowboys
game. He
game, he
came up big.
came up big.
110 pass rating against them. 6 pass breakups as opposed to just 1 interception. I don't know, dog. Only 29 catches. I think that's part of it. Like 40 targets in 9 games. It's averaging five a game. Um, no, that's not right. That's not math. 4.5 a game. So that's not too bad if you're doing averages and things like that. I don't know. 72%. Uh, why are you holding the quarter?
You know why.
I know why. I'm not knocking him against that though. I think he was just sick of Joe Barry like the rest of us. I mean, and can you blame him? Frankly, like, of course you can, but I don't. I don't. He only gave up 400 yards as opposed to Carrington Valentine, who played in 17 games. Jeez Louise, Carrington Valentine gave up 470 on 11 more catches. He had a good year. So, yeah, the Jair discussion is hard for me. You know what? I'm gonna knock him down to a C plus, not the B minus that I gave
Hmm.
him. I just don't think the numbers are there to back it up. Might be
Not even a
minus.
flip of a coin.
What?
Not even a flip of a coin.
Not even flip of a coin. Yes.
I'm very much looking forward to a new beginning
Yep.
with
Me too.
Jair.
I'm actually gonna switch my grades for Jair and Carrington Valentine.
Well, what is your grade for Carrington Valentine then?
A C.
That is mine.
But I'm switching it. I'm giving him a B minus.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Why the switch?
Because he was just better. He was just better.
Now I'm gonna push back. Was he better just because they had no other choice?
I mean, he had he was targeted 72 times to Jair's 40. And in those spots, he had 74 more yards allowed on 11 more catches. So that's a pretty good ratio. Um, he had fewer yards after catch at 112 versus Jair's 119. Fewer yards per reception. He had one less pass breakup and one less TD thrown against him. No interceptions. Uh, it had an 80.2 pass rating when QBs throw it against him. Like the stats just back up that he was just better.
55.6 catch percentage for opposing wideouts too.
Yeah, versus Jair's 72. Like I think he was just better, and that's hard because Jair is supposed to be the All Pro and is being paid as the All Pro, but I, he was just good. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah, I think uh, I, I was playing devil's advocate.
I know.
I think there was a lot that I liked of what I saw of Carrington Valentine.
Plus he's a rookie. That's very good.
Plus, he's a rookie, seventh rounder at that. Like
Very good start to his career.
preseason, you know, fervor be damned, but we were very excited about Carrington Valentine, and based on the dearth, right, of cornerbacks,
Yes,
healthy
that
cornerbacks.
is the
This is a right word. This is a Packers roster that Rasul Douglas was on that he was no longer. Eric Stokes, we don't. I didn't even grade him.
neither did
Did
I.
you? Yeah. There's
Yeah.
there's frankly nothing too great.
Nope.
Um, Jair Alexander missing half the season. That is Carrington Valentine, and the next corner that we'll get to after that, Corey Valentine. Guy had to play. Who else are they going to play?
Mm-hmm.
They went through a bunch of practice squad guys that they brought on for a week or two, if that, and no one else really saw snaps on as an outside corner. It's a very low bar from that context, but I thought Carrington Valentine showed that he could be a really impactful corner. Am I thinking he's a cornerback of the future? I don't think so. But again, it's a very volatile position. Eric Stokes, we know that his um, fifth year option is going to be declined.
Yeah.
Uh, I
There's
see no
no
reason
way.
why they
There's
would.
no way to pick it up.
Jair Alexander, he is an all pro talent. Trying to get him back to that is the key. It's There's a lot of volatility right there. And maybe this is a good jumpstart for Carrington Valentine to become the number two to Jair's number one.
Yeah.
But I could see it going the completely different direction. Like
What do you mean?
there's I could see him faltering or kind of getting figured out, or
Oh,
him or
it it,
them
it not
deciding
translating to year two.
exactly, or them deciding, hey, that's not enough. We need to. I mean,
They're gonna
first
draft
round picks,
They're gonna draft a cornerback, not a
of
safe. They'll
course.
draft a safety, but they'll also draft a cornerback.
Yeah.
What they need is a
Um,
slot corner, but we'll get into that in the draft process.
they did a lot back there.
I don't even think they just need a lot. I think they just need one more piece to really.
I'm in terms of the entire secondary.
Yeah, they need at
Two
least.
safeties, one more corner, maybe another. Like
You're making me want to
we were
argue draft stuff, and we're not doing that right
I know,
now.
but we were but to let's not go to draft point. When the initial 53 man roster selection was happened in August, early September, they carried four corners. One of them was hurt on IR. And we're like, that's crazy. And that didn't really change at all
No,
this year.
no, it didn't.
So I'm not saying to change your draft grade, but what I'm saying is
No,
I think
yeah.
or not draft grade, your Carrington Valentine
Yeah, I
grade.
know.
I
I
think
got it.
Carrington Valentine did really well. He played above expectations, but expectations not just on him, but the how the Packers valued that position this year was super low.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Alrighty, Corey Valentine. Next up, what did you give?
C ball.
I
Um,
also gave him a C.
what?
I also gave him.
Oh,
Oh, got it. You were making a
that's.
nickname. I was giving a grade. Got it.
I'm actually gonna change my grade just to fit that joke. I did say C minus originally, but I'll give him a C because I think he's kind of in the same boat as character Valentine.
Um, yeah, he had a solid year. I just think he needed to be. Um, I guess I don't. I say that, but I look at his stats and it just is good. Am I wishy washy, Jordan? Do I want to give him a better grade? 33 catches on 55 targets, 412 yards, 12 and a half yards per catch, 178 yards after the catch. That could probably be my reason. But one TD on him, one interception, and four pass breakups with an 81 uh, passer rating against him. That's solid.
That is solid.
But like, this is where my explanation earlier came in. It's solid, but why wasn't the unit good?
Also, was not on the roster to start the year
Oh, it's
either.
so tough. I think you know what? Because I think he deserves a plus in his life. I'll give him. I'll bump mine to a C plus. Like, it's really crazy that they just didn't give up a whole lot of touchdowns as a secondary. Keyshawn Nix we haven't talked about yet. Gave up one, or I'm sorry, two. Jonathan Owens, four. Two from John L. Savage, one from Rudy Ford, one from Carrington
Eric
Valentine.
Stokes allowed 3 touchdowns,
Yeah.
and he played 110 snaps.
Yeah, it's not great.
152.9
Yeah, it's not
passer
ideal.
rating.
That's not ideal.
So let's grade Eric Stokes
No,
actually.
no, no. You don't gotta kick him while he's down. Um,
uh,
yeah, C plus for Corey Valentine from me. Just had a solid year.
I admire it. I admire it. Some may say you're a flip flopper,
I do be
but this
flipping
ain't
and
no
flopping.
damn U.S. Senate.
I,
This is Tug of the Tundra. Damn it.
I'm a sandal. I'm a flip and flop. All right,
That was bad.
it was bad. Darnell Savage, what'd you give him?
Oh, are we doing Keyshawn Nixon here? Or are we saving that for special teams?
You can do him here.
C minus.
C minus. Is that
In
including
totality.
in
In
totality?
totality. In totality.
All pro Keyshawn Nixon.
I did.
You just don't value his kick returning as much as his detriments on defense.
I don't think, but half of the year we're like, why are you taking that out?
It worked
Stop
good.
doing that. It it worked eventually. I thought his special teams grew as the season went on for the second straight year.
He had the
I
interception
thought
against the Chiefs,
I know, but again, this is not a unit that created a lot of takeaways.
and he had one of
Um,
them.
Jerry Seinfeld has entered the room,
I
apparently.
it did really sound like Jerry Seinfeld.
um, again, I throughout the year I was like, you know what? I thought he did an admirable job of being a slot corner, and I did not hold to that opinion, but I don't think it was as harsh as I saw some people say. Uh, Numac making faces.
Keyshawn Nixon had 350 more return yards than the next highest person.
Yeah,
He had 879 kick return yards. That's a lot of yards, Jordan.
he has a lot of yards.
That's
But this is the totality. I think if I was looking at specialties, I'd probably say B.
okay. I gave him a B.
I think that's fair.
Okay, I keep fucking forgetting. I explicit now. I keep fucking forgetting we don't have the same grade scale. We're changing it for next year. We have to be on the same page because it's driving me insane. I get so mad that we have such varying ideas, but they're different. Damn it. I gave him a B. You gave him a C minus. Started from an F. Went up a grade. It's the same. Fuck. No, I agree with you. He had a better second half of the year defensively. He had the really important interception against the Chiefs that sealed the game for them essentially. He led the team in stops as a tackler. Like you can push back if you want, but he was making some great plays on the edge. Not on the edge of like outside the numbers. He was a
Yes.
really good tackle outside the numbers and was just like uh, dynamic in the second half of the year. Had 74 receptions on 94 targets against him. Like I think the offense was really targeted Keyshawn Nixon, obviously, because you're not going to throw against Jair. And with the way Carrington Valentine played, you weren't going to really throw against him if you didn't have to. 717 yards, 2 touchdowns allowed. That's not bad for the amount of catches that is against him. Like 5 pass breakups, 1 interception, 101 passer rating against him. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I got so
It
mad.
again. No, it's okay. I don't care. The thing is, and it's the inescapable reality that we will not have to grade Packers in the same way in the future. Is that Keyshawn Nixon was the only slot corner that they had. There was no rotation, and it was under Joe Barry's defense. I thought for the expectations I had for Keyshawn Nixon as a slot corner going into this year, which were very, very low, he played above them. But there were also weeks where his special teams impact were like, why are you doing this? What are you like? Just don't force things when they're going to happen. And then things get better, and you're not necessarily complaining about the littlest things in the planet of taking out a kick if it's returnable or whatever. I like Keyshawn Nixon a lot. I think he's a very important player for this team based on I thought his offensive grade was an A based on that one run that he had for 10 yards or whatever it was.
Right.
But I think he's a very important player for this team culturally. But what happens when the defense gets better, if it ever does? Like that's the ripple effect of how much the Packers improve their secondary and where that leaves Keyshawn Nixon will be very interesting. And obviously, it might be moot if he moves on because he's a free agent.
Yeah, I they signed him to a 1 year deal last year. I It's going to be interesting how they handle Keyshawn Nixon's role in a contract going forward. Like I think again, he has a lot of value as a
How
kick
do
returner.
Yes, and how do they value where he's progressed? Because he's gotten better. Like that, even if he's not a perfect slot corner, which no one ever is.
Right.
Um, I'd be very interested to see how the Packers view where he is as a pro.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty critical decision to make this offseason. Do they want to keep riding with him at slot corner? I think no. Do they want to keep him as a kick returner? I think yes. It's hard because we were chatting about it in the Discord today. Like of the cornerbacks that are coming out of the draft this year, only like a small handful of them played slot corner a bunch in college. That's not to say that you can't teach one of the corners coming out to play slot corner, but it's it's hard in this draft class to really pinpoint a slot corner that can go in week 1 and be your starting slot corner. And so, do they keep him around for another year um and see if they can draft the guy to develop to be the slot corner? They could. Is Keyshawn gonna want to sign another 1 year deal when maybe he gets offers elsewhere to be a dynamic returner and play defense and get a longer term contract for more money? Maybe. I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard thing to navigate. And I, if you're gonna ask me, should they keep him around? I think yes.
I agree.
So, alrighty, who do you want to go to next? We have Darnell Savage, Rudy Ford, or Jonathan Owens.
I let's go Savage.
I give him a B plus.
I gave him a C, expecting to trash him,
Right?
and
Right?
yes,
Like
and
I the same idea for me.
think everything's really wrapped up in just like I think a lot of things could have gone better with Darnell Savage if he truly leaves Green Bay. And I think the fact that he played under a defense coordinator that just for whatever reason just didn't develop the secondary or safeties in a way that made them impactful
Mm-hmm.
routinely
Right.
hurt him the most because he's a talented player, he's useful. It's not all pro or like what we saw with Adrian Amos at times when he was here, but Darrell Savage we will remember his gaffes in the 49ers game, and it overshadows just kind of how solid he was this year when
Yep.
he was healthy.
Yep. Pick six against the Cowboys. Um, two touchdowns allowed for him in coverage. One interception, which I believe is the one against the Cowboys.
Kittle,
Huh?
or sorry, one of those touches had to be the Kittle one. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Um, 12 total games. He had 19 receptions on 24 targets against him, a reception rate of 79%. Only 9.5 yards per catch for him. 109 NFL rating, like passer rating, when throwing against them. Two PBUs as well. No penalties is worth noting as well. Solid year for him, frankly. Like I thought he played a lot better than he did last year. A lot better than he did last year. So
Yes,
I,
I
I
would
think
agree.
I think that's worth something. So he has this year, correct, Jordan? Or does he have? No, he's a free agent. He's a free agent.
Yep, yep.
So I wouldn't even be upset if they like brought him back on a small deal and let Ford and Owens and others walk, and then draft a couple. You know what I mean? I also think they might invest in safety this offseason, but as a free agent,
That has been
floated.
Goody's
Yeah,
MO previously.
right. So yeah, B plus for Savage. I hope he's back. Honestly, he played well. I think he deserves a chance. What? You're not coming through.
You hope he's back?
I think I do. Cause like
I think it's a very play it safe way of looking at it.
yeah, I think, but like if you're Darnell Savage, are you getting a whole lot of offers from anyone else? You know what I mean?
He's gonna be a very interesting free agent case.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I think that if the Packers brought him back on a small, modest deal, I don't see a problem with that. And if they go draft some stud or go sign some stud in free agency, they could that could be a solid 1-2 for your safeties. Or they go sign a guy that's really good and go draft one high. Like there's different ways to go about it, but that's what I think is nice about the NFL and how they order their draft and free agency periods. Free agency comes first. You address your problems in free agency as you can, and then you draft. You draft what you couldn't get. And if they can't find some sort of big name player to fill in for their safety gap, which they need to do, then they'll sign Darnell to probably a smaller deal if he's still around, if he's still waiting for a deal, and then go draft one in the first or second round. If they sign a big name safety like Antoine Winfield Jr., which they're not going to do because he can be franchise tagged by the Buccaneers, which is very sad. Um, they'll they if they pie in the sky sign him, they probably keep Darnell Savage around for a year or two, and then go sign another safety or go get a safety in a different draft class, or sign Darnell to a 1 or 2 year deal, then still draft one high, and plan your succession of Darnell Savage. So we'll see, we'll see.
We
Rudy
will
Ford,
definitely see.
unless you have more on
Um,
Darnell.
13th safety in PFF's free agent safeties
Yeah, that
this year.
that doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise me. It kind of tracks. Sorry. Rudy Ford D plus.
Yeah, I gave him a C.
Started the season hot, shooting out of a cannon.
Yep. And then just wasn't good the
The
rest of the
guy
way.
that led the team in interceptions this year,
Yeah.
and then got benched.
Yeah. Yeah, just not good, unfortunately. Um I'm sorry, 9 catches on 22 yards, one touchdown against them, two interceptions and four pass breakups. Like he was really good in coverage at times, but the play just wasn't there for him, unfortunately. Which is weird that he got benched because like those are solid numbers. I just don't know why he would have gotten benched for that reason. Do you know why?
No, I don't.
I don't know if you remember why I had come out or
No,
something.
it just anytime that the beat writers would
It kind of
show
went to
who's
Jonathan Owens, right? Like they kind of like
it
shifted
went
towards,
to yeah, it went to Owens.
which is incredible because I gave him a D plus.
I did C minus. I gave a C minus to Mr. Biles.
I just don't think he was good whatsoever. I think he made so many mistakes that it really.
He was hit or miss. There was no in between.
Um,
And by hit or miss, I meant he led his with his head and would target people and get penalties that way too.
26 catches, on 38 targets, 269 yards, four touchdowns, and four penalties assessed against him. That like you were mentioning, like just not ideal for your starting safety. Yeah,
No,
yeah. I don't care to have him back, frankly. Um,
you said that with such disgust.
I just don't like he just wasn't good.
He's a stopgap safety.
Yeah, I just
It's a 1 year
rather
deal.
yeah I'd rather they bring like Rudy Ford back and keep him like just there as like a pressing case of emergency safety. So that's it for the defense, Jordan. Right, no Zane Anderson, no Anthony Johnson Jr. Incompletes for us there. Now on to the last two special teams. Daniel Whalen, punter. What'd you give him?
C plus.
Give him a B plus. I thought he had a pretty solid year.
I think
Pretty
the Packers will have their first back to back punter in like what 5 years.
5 6 years at least, which is crazy. Not it's not crazy, but it's just like man,
No,
it took us long enough, kind
yeah.
of thing.
Thank you, Ireland.
Thank you, Ireland. I'm trying to clear out this thing. See if I can find Daniel Whalen here. He was the eighth ranked punter for grades in on PFF. He didn't have. I'm trying to see. He had 61 punts, which was good for the pretty close to the bottom, tie for 24th most or eighth least or about ish. Um, trying to see yards per attempt to see where he stacked up. Unfortunately, I can't find him quickly. Uh,
28th.
28th at 45 and a half. For context, top of this is Ryan Stonehouse in Tennessee with 53. So
Stonehouse.
yeah, I enjoyed the Daniel Whelan experience this year. He had 23 punts inside the 20, none blocked. We should show a little bit of inside like the 5 or the 10 or something like that, but that's not a big deal. So yeah, good stuff from Daniel Whelan. Nice job. And now the piece de la resistance. What did you give big leg Anders Carlson?
I gave him a C.
I gave him a C minus. I would be surprised if they don't invest in kicker this offseason. Whether that's bringing in multiple into camp.
Oh, I think that is
I'm
for
talking
sure
like
happening
three
at
at
this point.
least. Anders and two
I don't know
others.
about three.
I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in a few. Put the pressure on them. Like, you need to start making kicks.
Kick for
Because
your freedom.
yeah, you know what? Gronk or Anders Carlson? Who's making the FanDuel kick?
It's not Gronk.
It's not Anders either,
It
I
might
don't
not
think.
be. No free ads, of
It's
course.
just, of course not. I don't know, man. It was just hard, and it really you really don't want to like nag on the guy because it's all been litigated so much already. But this season looks a lot different if he just makes 50% more of the kicks he missed. Like it's, I should pull up his stats here quickly before we get out of here. Field goals. Let's see. Field goal percentage. I'm pretty sure he was down close to last. For not.
Field goal percentage?
Oh no, he wasn't. My apologies. I was speculating and being dumb. Of he was tied. He was 30th.
Let's give context to that the
80
top four
or 100.
top
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me put some 80. Okay, there we go.
one is a running back for the Houston Texans
Dar
and Milwaukee
forward
native.
Dara Gumale.
Yeah.
Okay, I put the minimum field goal attempts on there. My apologies. You are right. Um, even then, he was 24th at 80.6. Nick Folk, Harrison Bucker, and Brandon Aubrey led the way with 96, 95, and 95. So it just wasn't good. We talked about how he couldn't hit from deep and he couldn't hit from like the middle. Or, I'm sorry, the middle of the
4 for 9 from 40 to 49 yards.
and 3 of 5 from 50 plus.
Three or
He missed
five.
he missed 6 extra points. Led the league in missed extra
That
points,
yeah, eight for 8 from 20 to 29. 14 of 14 from 30 to 39.
which is crazy because it's not like an extra point is shorter than 20 yards. It's like the
You're in
same.
that 30 to 39 range
Yeah,
on the early
it's
years.
like the same distance,
Mm-hmm.
and he just can't hit him, and he gets to choose where he puts the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating because, of course, like missing kicks is bad, but he missed. I can't do math. It's too late. 4 of 9. He missed 7 kicks this year. Left it leaving 21 points on the board. Like a lot of those kicks really mattered. The Niners one mattered.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other ones at this very moment, but we know they mattered. So, yeah, he just needs to be better next year. That's all there is to it.
Yep.
Should we get out of here, Jordan?
Let's do it.
That's it for
That
grades,
is
people.
that is your 2023 Green Bay Packers.
That's right. We shut the book on the 2023 Packers. We're opening up a new book, starting draft combine stuff soon. Combine is next week.
This
Is
is
it?
next
No.
week.
Yeah, it is next week.
Yes, it is.
So we'll be talking all
Are
about
you
that next
preparing
week.
for the 40?
Yeah, I'm preparing for the 40.
What's your clean never mind that
Go ahead.
what is your shuttle cone?
Not fast. I'm not agile.
Okay. Neither am I.
You know what we should do, Jordan?
No.
You
I
don't
know
want
exactly.
you don't
I
want to
know
do it
exactly.
because there's a high school that is near you that has a turf field. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yes, I do.
We could go time each other at the football field and see how fast we can who has the faster 40.
I bet I could kick a 40-year-old field goal.
Listen, maybe we do that this weekend. Maybe we go see how far we can kick. Maybe we go kick a regulation extra point and see who can make it. See if we're better than Anders.
That would be fun.
All right. But that's what we're what's coming up, folks. Go to gsp.info for all of the things Eurostep Podcast Network. Go check out Eurostep and Win in Six on the Bucks feed to hear Ty and Rohan. And then obviously Jordan and Adam talk about the Bucks as they come out of the All Star break this week. Um, Pitchers and catchers reported for the Brewers. Adam and Andrew are all over that as they finally signed Gary Sanchez after a roller coaster of emotions of whether or not he was going to sign. Um, Jackson Churio's coming up. It's going to be a great Brewers season, hopefully. So go check out Cruising for Bruising with Adam and Andrew. Also check out Adam and Andrew's podcast. Make time for this, the Junk Drawer Pod, along with all of their movie interests and just generally a fun pod. They released one today, I'm pretty sure. It is on the joys and the tragedy of the Iron Claw, Sean Durkin's tribute to one of wrestling's greatest families. So, um, last week they released an episode on the Zone of Interest, the A24 movie, which I heard was quite good. I really want to see it, so I'm gonna watch it eventually and then listen to that podcast episode. So, you should do the same. That does it for us, folks. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week, like we had said, to talk draft, combine stuff, and just draft in general. And with that, thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.